Welcome one, welcome all to the month of August. That's right, today is Monday, August 1st, 2022, and this is the SB Nation NFL Show. A reminder before we get started that this show is brought to you by DraftKings. DraftKings Sportsbook is an official sports betting partner of the NFL. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app today and use code SBNNFL for a special offer when you sign up. That's code SBNNFL only at DraftKings Sportsbook. As mentioned, this is the SB Nation NFL Show, and specifically this is Monday Football Monday, where we get your week started talking about the Sunday that was in the NFL. But right now it's still technically training camp season, so we're looking forward. We're talking about everything that's happening, getting ready for all of the football that's coming our way. I mentioned it is August, which means every month for the next half year has at least one football game of some kind, so get ready. My name is Ochoa from SB Nation's Blog and the Boys. Joining me as always on the ones and twos is Rachelle Prevet from SB Nation's Bleeding Green Nation. And joining us here, basically the father of Monday Football Monday, I've decided, I think Rachelle is in agreement, from SB Nation's Bolts from the Blue. It is the debonair, the swashbuckling Michael Peterson. You can hear him wherever you get your podcasts on the SB Nation NFL Show. Subscribe, leave a rating, write a review. You can watch him on the SB Nation NFL YouTube channel, Facebook page, and Twitter page. Michael, give the viewing audience a wink. You can use your right or left eye, but give them
a wink. Okay, hold on. Which is my dominant winking eye? That one. I think it's my left.
Go,
yeah, there you go. There's
Baker
two.
Mayfield winked at you.
Oh my god.
See, I've kind of grown uncomfortable with the Baker Mayfield comparison because that makes me Sam Darnold, and I don't,
I mean, I don't know about that. Not at all.
Who else would I be? I don't want to be Robbie Anderson with the IE now. Like, that's too awkward. I don't want to do that. Maybe I'm Christian McCaffrey in this relationship.
Why not?
Then that puts Rachelle in a compromising position. Is she Matt Rule? Nobody wants to be Matt Rule. I mean, like, this is just, if Baker had gotten traded to the Seahawks, we could have made this work a lot more coolly. I could have been DK Metcalf. Rachelle could have been Jamal Adams, like the good part of him. There's a lot more meat on that bone, so to speak.
Mm-hmm. No, I completely agree. I like the Christian McCaffrey one. I mean, you both are comparably very good-looking guys. It's just straight up. Let's just say it.
Well, actually, by the way, right when you said that, I just saw a piece of news. That's how things are happening now here at the SB Nation NFL Show. While we record, while we stream, things happening. NFL Network reporting that the Panthers just activated second-year corner J.C. Horn from the PUP list. Obviously missed most of last season, so very good news to see him back. Michael, we have a lot to get to. As mentioned, we're in the thick of training camp season. You were talking to Rachelle and I about your life, kind of telling us, what your favorite class was in high school, what you majored in college, things like that. Quilting is a hobby of Michael's. Everybody can check out his Twitter at Zone Tracks, and he'll show you kind of how to there. And you noted today is the first day of pads for most teams around the NFL, so the intensity is picking up. Broncos country is riding. Everything is happening the way it's supposed to. But Monday started with a massive piece of news that we have to discuss, and I think I comfortably speak for both Michael and Rachelle in saying that it is gross to talk about this. We don't enjoy it, but it is the biggest thing to happen in the NFL in a very long time. We finally have, Michael, a punishment for Cleveland Browns quarterback Deshaun Watson. He was officially suspended for the first 6 games of the season by the jointly appointed disciplinary officer, Judge Sue L. Robinson. Her decision says that Deshaun, as mentioned, is suspended the first 6 games of the season. There are a lot of tentacles to this. I'm just going to kind of blitz through them and we can unpack it. The financial part of this, because that has become part of the story, especially when Deshaun got his new deal with the Browns. His salary for this year, rather, is his base salary is $1 million. So his suspension comes out of that. So this is only going to cost him $333,000. And I use that word only very, very loosely, obviously, and contextually. Under his old contract, his previous one with the Houston Texans, it would have cost him over $11.7 million if we're rounding up. NFL Network's Mike Garafolo, reported that the first installment of his signing bonus, which remains untouched and unimpacted by all of this, was due yesterday. So Deshaun got a big old chunk of change on Sunday. Monday gets the big suspension. The NFL does reserve the right to appeal this suspension. In that particular case, Michael, Deshaun's fate would be decided by Commissioner Roger Goodell or whoever Goodell appoints. For what it's worth, Deshaun is expected to participate in practice on Monday. The aforementioned padded practices happening across the NFL. But on the outset, Deshaun Watson suspended 6 games. It almost seems universally agreed that that is a fraction of what may be constituted to be enough, if you can even quantify what would be enough given all the circumstances.
Yeah, I think it's absolutely insane. It was one heck of a way to start the morning yesterday when we got the report that basically said tomorrow we'll finally get, I guess an ending to this whole saga, this whole circus that he put on during this off season. It came down to 6 games. Now we can go. I'm sure we're going to talk about it at length, but 6 games is nothing. It is especially with an extra game having been added on to a 17 game schedule. It's even less, than a half of a season, right? Like less than half a season for being the center of everything we've been hearing day in and day out. All the stories have been surrounding it, everything we've heard. Like 6 games is nothing. It's a slap on the wrist. That is like a knee-jerk reaction to players getting suspended for PEDs, or
which literally happened to DeAndre Hopkins. He literally was suspended 6 games for that.
Right. Like it's absolutely insane. I'm sure we'll talk about it later, but I actually have a short list here of comparable lengths of suspensions throughout the past like 10, 12, 15 years in the NFL with what they did to show you, to kind of give you some context of like, well, 10 years ago, this got you 6 games, this got you 5 games. And I'll tell you what, there's quite the canyon between some of these reasons why these guys got suspended 5-6 games as opposed to what Deshaun Watson has been at the center of. It's just absolutely insane. And I'm sure we're going to talk about it a lot. There's a lot to talk about. And there's, again, so many layers. It's like this onion here. And we're going to get to it here soon.
Yeah, this really is an ogre, just like an onion with lots of layers. And it's a shame because this is a really, fun time of year. The football's in the air. It's a fun episode of Monday Football Monday. We have an interview that I conducted with Emmitt Smith that we're dropping in a little bit. So it's a shame that this is this cloud that now hangs over everything. And it's so difficult, Michael, to talk about the finances or even the history, because the history of the NFL, certainly of the last, 10 years, post Ray Rice, if you want to, kind of put a line of demarcation on it, is not glowing. Is quite hypocritical for everything they say that they stand for. So it's difficult to kind of look at things like that. It's difficult to talk about the football of it all. If anybody cares, the 6 games that Deshaun Watson is set to miss, season opener against the Carolina Panthers, you'll be very busy as a part of that game, obviously. That game's been heavily discussed. So they've got the Carolina Panthers. Then for me, when I'm Sam Darnold again, the New York Jets in week 2 for the Browns, the Pittsburgh Steelers, the Atlanta Falcons in week 4, the LA Chargers. I know you'll be in on that game, obviously, covering it for Bolts for the Blue, and the New England Patriots in week 6. So if we look at those 6 teams, Panthers, Jets, Steelers, Falcons, Chargers, Patriots, even if you just look at the football of it all, we're talking about maybe 1 consequential game against the Chargers, maybe 2 if you're willing to lump the Steelers in there, and obviously they're a bit of a question mark with how they're going to be this season, but 1 divisional game. And so it all kind of lends to I hate talking about the finances of it all because that was so gross when he got the new deal with the Browns. It was so gross how the NFL and the Browns allowed for that to happen, for this loophole to be created, for him to be financially protected from a would-be suspension here, which is obviously what it was. And it was so gross, the parading about it that happened by the national insiders, them bragging about the way it was broken and things like that. And so that part is just disgusting to me because, again, it feels like an enormous amount of efforts were made to keep Deshaun, protected here and to kind of protect the Browns. I mean, like, this is a little bit, lengthier in terms of assumptions here. But the schedule I just read you, I mean, it's been known for a long time that Deshaun Watson was likely going to be suspended to start the season. I mean, who's to say? Like, is it difficult? Is it impossible to believe that the NFL didn't give the Browns a few tomato cans to start the season so that their heavier games did feature their franchise quarterback at the center of it?
Yeah, it just seems way, way too convenient the way everything shook out. I mean, most of this offseason, since the deal was signed, this $200 million fully guaranteed deal came down where everyone in the NFL was able to kind of dunk on the Browns and say, like, I can't believe you guys gave Deshaun Watson this much money when, we could never see him on the football field at least for a year or 2. Like, people thought that's how long his suspension was going to be. And all of a sudden, yesterday they come out, the NFLPA came with a statement that said, like, we're not going to fight whatever the thing is, whatever the final result is, whatever Robinson says. We encourage Roger Goodell and the NFL to accept it as well, which I just thought was kind of weird. Not to say that I believe the NFLPA knew that it was going to be a type of sentence that they themselves probably wouldn't want to fight in the first place, but it would just seem convenient, right? That they were like, whatever it is, we'll be fine with it. It just seemed like it was such a carefree thing for them to say when it seems like they almost knew that it wasn't going to be all that long, right?
Yeah, you can't prove that. Nobody can, right? But you're right.
Yeah, we can't.
It's awfully convenient to now in the aftermath be like, well, we said, we were going to accept whatever the suspension was. Like, again, if we're reading between lines, it certainly seems like, and look, the NFLPA exists for an enormously good reason and does enormous good for NFL players, and the causes they fight for are obviously very noble and true mostly, but this feels kind of gross. To your point, like, it at least smells gross. It may not be gross, but it smells just like the NFLPA knew exactly what was happening and got ahead of it from a narrative standpoint. Just before we started recording, all the NFL Network, Good Morning Football, ESPN's covering this. Everybody's saying, well, the NFLPA released their statement that they were going to accept whatever punishment was given out, and they said that before the suspension was due. I mean, do we think that this wasn't? I mean, again, like, there are some assumptions being made here. Do you know what happens when you assume? But that does not sit well, I think, with most people in the way they feel about this.
Yeah, and I mean, on top of the convenience of that situation, like, they were ready. It seemed like the Browns were about to eat a ton of crow with, throwing a bunch of money away with this deal, right? I mean, they paid all this money. He was guaranteed all of it. And we all expected 1 year, maybe 2 years, an indefinite suspension. I mean, we kind of talked about with Calvin Ridley and kind of combining or comparing those things, like why it didn't make a lot of sense. But all of a sudden, like, the numbers with the contracts are also way too convenient, right? Like you just mentioned, $333,333. That's the exact amount apparently that he will miss from these 6 games. It just seemed like, besides the NFLPA knowing something, it seemed like the Browns were oddly confident that they could restructure his contract this way, and really not be out all that much money at the end of the day. I mean, that's kind of insane. Like, before I saw the numbers, never in a million years would I have thought that it would cost him, $333,000 to miss 6 games on a contract that's $230 million guaranteed. It absolutely did not make any sense. I did not think, like, I know people can work wonders with the cap, but even I did not expect them to work this form of black magic. Like, it was just absolutely insane. Everybody's scot-free. No one's really getting hurt by this, like, whatsoever, besides the people who obviously were hurt by the fact that it was a 6-game suspension in the first place.
Deshaun also reportedly settled 3 of his remaining 4 civil suits on Monday. So it does feel like all of everything that can be done is being done to sweep this under the rug, which is it's really gross. I mean, it's disgusting. I mean, I don't know. Let's get to your list, because everybody's obviously, DeAndre Hopkins is one example, but the sort of glaring example is Calvin Ridley and his year-long suspension for gambling. That's what everybody's pointing to. But as I understand, you have several to work with. Let's just hear the list.
Okay, so the first one I wrote down is obviously the D Hopkins one.
Right.
We've pinned on that. I think I saw you mention this morning, or somebody else involved with the Cowboys mentioned that it's the same as Ezekiel Elliott got in 2017 for being involved in a case. I don't think there was it wasn't innocent or guilty, or he at least wasn't found guilty, right? He was just involved in a case. However,
right.
that ended, I can't. Go ahead.
Just for context, that was a very long year to cover that. The independent investigator who was involved, the NFL hired, recommended no games actually for him. That was her recommendation, Lisa Friel. But Roger Goodell superseded that and gave Zeke 6 games. I'm sure the average football fan, I mean, obviously you're not covering the Cowboys, remembers it was this like on again, off again. He's suspended. No, he's not. He is, whatever. He did ultimately serve the 6-game suspension, but it finally reached a point where the Cowboys and Zeke could no longer fight it midway through the 2017 season. It was this cloud that really hung over them all year long.
Mm-hmm. Right. Okay. So there's that. There's if you guys remember, I think this was 2010. Ben Roethlisberger initially had a 6-game suspension for allegedly forcing himself on a 20-year-old woman in a Georgia nightclub bathroom. That was actually they ended up not pressing charges. It was reduced to 4 games. But like, again, one incident compared to 24 civil lawsuits, right? Like, just didn't make a lot of sense. It ended up being reduced when he wasn't charged officially for this. Another one is Terrell Pryor. After he had left Ohio State, Terrell Pryor received a 5-game suspension for receiving improper benefits from his time at Ohio State. He received a 5-game suspension in the NFL for something that supposedly happened at Ohio State. And if I remember correctly, he just signed and or sold team gear that he got for free from Ohio State.
Right.
That was it. Received 5 games in the NFL for something that didn't even happen while he was in the NFL. And then you got a 4-game suspension for Plaxico Burress accidentally shooting himself in a nightclub one night. 4 games for taking a bullet to your own leg. Only 2 games less than what Deshaun Watson got.
I mean, whatever you want to do, it's your leg.
Right. Like, I mean, I know it's scary and like, he had
Right.
a gun somewhere he probably wasn't supposed to, but like he still shot himself and that was it, right? At the end of the day, that's all the facts said. He shot himself, 4-game suspension for that. And then this one isn't even in football, but Trevor Bauer in the MLB got 2 years for non-criminal sexual assault allegations for everything he did. So like, I just think this builds a lot of context and shows you that the inconsistency is kind of wild. And I think we do have to note that, right, this is from Judge Sue Robinson. This is her coming down with the number. This isn't the NFL officially coming out and saying, like, we are suspending Deshaun Watson 6 games. This is from Sue Robinson. But then the NFL, the ball's in their court now, whether they want to appeal. And then I think you said that it's up to Roger Goodell or whoever he appoints to actually make this final decision on the whole matter. But like, so that's a lot of things that really kind of shine a light on the canyon of disparity between what Deshaun Watson did, the 6 games he got, as opposed to all these other guys who got 4, 5, 6 games for something people would probably say is much less of a circus than what he put the NFL through this offseason.
There were so many people who thought that after the Trevor Bauer suspension in Major League Baseball that there's, like the general take was like, there's no way the NFL doesn't drop the hammer on Deshaun, whatever. They can't do this. They can't look like it because if they don't sort of match that suspension, they look like they condone this behavior, and all those things are fair contextually. And so I don't think it's dramatic or hyperbolic or, exaggerative to say that. I mean, I think the legacy of Roger Goodell in this arena is poor. Like no matter what happens here, there's no like redeeming that can happen. I don't think you can undo everything that he did. Roger Goodell's made the NFL owners a lot of money, right? And so like maybe in that sense, people think his legacy is prominent. But this is a fork in the road for Roger Goodell in the NFL. Like, who are you going to be? Are you going to be the MLB and pursue this, this Trevor Bauer type suspension or something else, something more serious? Or are you going to just allow this? And that would be really gross. And the general take by the, again, the national level insiders is that, well, this is different because this did feature this independent person, this part of the new CBA, et cetera, Judge Robinson. So you can't, again, this is not my take. This is their take. You can't compare this to everything that Michael Peterson just said because these are different circumstances. This is the new precedent being set. So, we don't want to set a terrible precedent. I think it's okay to set a terrible precedent when something terrible has happened here. Rachel, I think it's important to get your thoughts before we completely close this subject. I know you agree with us, but Deshaun Watson suspended only 6 games. Your thoughts?
It's a joke. The entire situation to me is personally a joke. But I understand, what you just said, RJ, talking about bringing a new precedent, like making a new precedent, but you still have to factor in some of the stuff that has happened in the past. I don't know what the judge, Sue Robertson, like, I don't know if she looked at these other cases, but to me, I'm like, she should have known, like, she should have did her research, looked back and see what had already been done. Cause this to me is not enough personally. Like, we already know how the NFL feels, in the messages that they have made clear pretty much, that they don't support certain individuals. I'll just say that, including women and some minorities as well. So it's kind of just like disappointing to see because this season we're still going to see the Black Lives Matter. We're still going to see the breast cancer awareness. Like they fake that they support these women and men and whatever. But at the end of the day, your actions continue to show that like you guys really don't care. It's about the money.
Yeah. They actually got rid of like October used to be like it would be nothing but breast cancer awareness, and they would the pink armbands and gloves. They got rid of all that. Now it's like multicolored support for different causes, which is cool. And I felt like support different things, But I mean, to your point, Rachel, really gross the way they go about it. I do think this is an important point. Before we completely leave this subject again, you mentioned Judge Robinson, Rachel. According to NFL Network, her decision says that Deshaun's quote pattern of behavior was egregious, but noted that it was quote nonviolent sexual conduct. So
How?
I mean, okay, so again, I'm not like agreeing with Judge Robinson, but
Yeah.
say that say this this judge obviously determined that it was nonviolent. Okay, then why are you suspending him at all? If it was non-violent, why are you suspending him at all? You know, like that math doesn't make sense. It was either, this is like, you know, people say like you're either pregnant or you're not pregnant, like type stuff. Like it was either something worthy of a suspension, and if it was, it should be a massive suspension, or it was nothing and he shouldn't be suspended at all. So again, I'm not advocating for no suspension here, Rachel, but if you truly believe it was non-violent, then why did you suspend him at all? Then he shouldn't have been suspended in any single games.
I'm confused. The entire thing to me, like I said, is a joke. Makes no sense. I want someone to just make it make sense for me.
Yeah, I'm trying. With I think the funniest thing to me is the use of the word nonviolent sexual conduct, as if like there's a level of violence that needs to happen, right, to make it as serious as it is, and then this idea of what is violent and what's not is super subjective, right? Like we've read the testimonies, we've read the stories of like all the gross, disgusting things that apparently happened between Deshaun Watson and these masseuses, and like, where's the line that constitutes being violent? So there's like, did he have to literally throw a punch? Did he have to physically like fight said masseuse? Or did he forcefully take a hand or something and put it somewhere where it wasn't supposed to be? It's still using force. It's still, you know, it doesn't change anything. The victims, like whether, you know, he threw a punch or not, shouldn't have changed whether or not he gets, you know, a year plus indefinitely or 6 games. Like, it just doesn't make a lot of sense. I think that's such a gray area there. And, I don't know. It really doesn't. It sounds sillier the more I think about it.
And I want to shout out both of you. I'm adding my, you know, points for Monday Football Monday, you know, the MVP for later. Both of you guys, fantastic job adding the context. Like Michael, you added the list of like other incidences that have happened in the past. That's very, very helpful. And also RJ, you talked about the games that he's going to miss, you know, and like the significance of that. So
yeah. I mean, I appreciate the double MVP points, but like that is so like I don't know anyone that feels comfortable talking about that today. Like, oh man, how are we gonna like how is any like Browns, like we all have to like create content, but how is any Browns content creator like, man, what are we gonna do against the Steelers in week 3 without Deshaun? Like who cares? Like that is so meaningless right now. So it's really lame. I'm sure you've both seen the very popular meme that the person with the sign that says our expectations were low,
but holy shit, like this is terrible.
So that's what this feels like. And I also, this is my actual last point on this, and I'm curious for both of y'all's thoughts, and then we'll go to Emmitt Smith and get happy again. I don't like how the NFL gets to kind of like be washed clean of this. Like Judge Robinson has to carry all the weight here, right? Like, oh, well, this is Judge Robinson's decision. Like we didn't do anything. We have nothing to do with this. Like you allowed the contract to exist the way that it did. You allowed him to be traded. You allowed all the like media circus and look, we sat here, we talked about like who was going to be trading for Deshaun Watson on the SB Nation NFL show, but I know, you know, the shows I've been part of and every show has added the necessary context that like this is gross. Somebody's going to trade for him and this is going to be gross, whoever winds up getting it. But so like the NFL advocated for all this attention the entire time, so I don't think it's fair to just for them to wash their hands clean of it and be like, well, you know what, Judge, this is all on Judge Robinson. Be mad at her. She's the one who decided 6 games. We had nothing to do with this. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I agree.
But didn't they have to select her though?
Yeah, I mean that's again like, you know, this that's what's so like, and I, you know, Michael thing that to like simplify that ultimately became about Roger Goodell did what Roger Goodell wanted to do. And, you know, I don't know what Roger Goodell believed, what Zeke, whether Zeke did or didn't do anything. There were no criminal, charges that ultimately landed. And so that's a different circumstance. But that ultimately became about Roger Goodell fully and totally exercising his power that the CBA gave him. And so, you know what, Roger Goodell, if that's how you really feel, if the league really did advocate for an indefinite suspension of Deshaun Watson, you have the power. You have the authority. We've seen it. We've witnessed it. We have seen it implemented and exacted on different players in different circumstances. And I hate to say for lighter crimes, because anything in this arena, like, it's so gross to measure. This is worse. This is better, whatever. Like, it's all awful and deplorable. But if Roger Goodell truly, totally means it, like you said, Rachel, you want to have everybody wear your, multicolored hoodies and caps in the month of October, whatever, then do something about it. Say, tell Judge Robinson that you disagree and that this has to be an indefinite suspension and that you're using the power of the CBA to work for the greater good. And if it doesn't happen, that would somehow make this even more disappointing.
Yeah.
It's rough, man. It's weird. Like, I know you're kind of like, passing it to us, but it's like you're hitting all the points, and then like I think we're kind of wanting to wring our hands as well of it. It's just it's gross. Like, we don't want to spend too much time on it because we've spent so much time trying to avoid it in the first place, and we've done everything. But like, it also feels kind of dumb to sit here and say how terrible it all is when our opinions aren't going to change it. But we hope that something does happen. We hope Roger Goodell does make the right choice. He doesn't have a good track record of that, but. Gosh, man, it's not it wasn't a good way to start the day. It's just, it sucks. We hate it here.
I think it's also just confusing, like, to the players. I'm not saying that, oh, this is like a pass for them, but in a way, I wonder how they're viewing all of this. When you look at what happened to Hopkins, when you look at what happened to all of the other players that we've already mentioned, and then you see this incident, it's like, what can I get away with? In a way.
To your point, Cordero Patterson tweeted right before we started recording and streaming to free Calvin Ridley. And, and again, it's hilarious that the NFL's like, Calvin violated the sacred gambling code of conduct. It's like, what? Like, dude, I mean, like, however anybody feels about gambling, it is legal in some states, right? So, like, fine. Like, again, maybe you personally, like, the morality in your life lends to you not, advocating for gambling. It is still legal. It is still not a crime in lots of states. But this, like, what Deshaun Watson is involved with is in no state, in no place, cool or legal or whatever. I know there's no criminal charges happening here, but it just feels like leaning on black and white lettering to support the narrative that you want to support. It sucks. And now, as Michael put it, our faith is in Roger Goodell, which is a really terrifying, it's like, I feel like we're jumping out of a plane and like the normal parachute doesn't work, but they're like, you still have the like emergency one. You'll be fine. You know what I mean? And I'm just, it's going to be a bumpy ride.
I'll tell you what, you're on your way down without a parachute, and they're like, Roger's going to jump out of the plane after you, and he has to make his way to you before you can pull the string. And like, you just got to hope that he's capable of, flying down to you and securing you before he actually pulls the chute.
Like the opening scene of Power Rangers when they're all like flying out of the plane and they're all like in their they're in their colors. I always thought, like, guys, you want to be like superheroes in your city, be a little bit more inconspicuous. Why are you always wearing the color of Ranger you are? That was a little ostentatious. But okay, let's lighten the mood. We are on YouTube, so you guys won't get this, but our podcast audience, if you want to hear it, head on over to the SB Nation NFL Show to get your podcast. The Emmitt Smith interview happening right now, courtesy of our friends at Panini. All right, welcome back, Michael. We took a break, obviously. Even the YouTube audience saw it. You said that you went and made a 4-course brunch throughout that break. What were 2 of the courses?
2 of the courses. Let's see. I made a super bougie biscuits and gravy with an apple fennel slaw and a turkey sausage in the gravy. Absolutely phenomenal. And then another one was one of my favorite dishes I've ever had, which is a kind of a sweet and savory appetizer where you cut small glazed donuts in half and you put a piece of pork belly in the middle. And then you have a side of mango. It's like mango salsa or something like that. Mango bourbon syrup sauce, actually. That's what it is, not a salsa. But yeah, I like to eat super bougie brunches. Please don't judge me. I like to get my money's worth and try some cool stuff.
We could tell. Holy crap! I need to try that donut thing, but I feel like it has to be a little bit, like a little bit bagely. Like it can't be like a super soft donut. Is my takeaway there? Like a one.
Yeah, I get that because if the donut's soft, like the pork bellies melt in your mouth, right? You're just gonna slide right through it. Right. So if you want a little bit of contrast in the textures and stuff like that, sure. But really, the main part is the sweet and savory stuff is what you want to hit on.
Good deal. Shout out to Emmitt Smith for joining us here on Monday Football Monday. Michael said that LaDainian Tomlinson was a better running back. I mean, just in case you're still listening, but whatever. Anyway, okay, Michael, let's kind of blitz through some big things. It's happening just now. Orlando Brown Jr.'s agent confirmed that he will sign the franchise tag tender from the Kansas City Chiefs and report to training camp today on Monday. So the Kansas City Chiefs offensive line just got fortified. As the guy who runs our Chargers side, how pissed are you?
I mean, A little pissed. I mean, I think you always feel a little something when, things start going right for the teams around you. You don't wish for injuries or anything crazy to like have your opponents, your rivals players, not on the field. But this is something that I kind of expected. I didn't think he was going to hold out all that long. He's coming back. I will say that in hindsight, I am glad the Chargers did not make a move for Orlando Brown in the past, because he's been a little more, maybe a little diva-ish than you kind of expected. He wanted to go somewhere and contribute. It's like, at least the way he was kind of putting vibes out there was that, like, you don't need to pay me an exorbitant amount of money to come play. I want to come play for a team that wants me, who wants me to come play left tackle and give me that opportunity. That's the biggest priority. And then for him to kind of play this hardball right with the Chiefs ahead of training camp, and all of a sudden, like, now he changed his tune and he's like, I want all the money in the world. I want to be the highest paid left tackle. If I don't get that, then I'm going to do a little bit of a holdout and whatever that he's doing now. Yes, he's reporting, but I'm fine with that because Chargers didn't have to deal with it. But he's going to return to the Chiefs. They'll be a good team. We'll just see how it goes.
Yeah, I think the Chiefs are a team that, and I know this probably bothers you, generally don't have this kind of drama. You know what I mean? Like, it all kind of ultimately works out. I know they had the hiccup of last season that I greatly enjoyed. And yeah, I mean, it's just, kind of, whatever. Good for them. Okay, moving on. Deebo Samuel, Michael, has a new deal. All of the wide receiver drama this season is now in the books. Deebo has his deal. Did you see this? He had liked a tweet in the offseason connecting him to the Cowboys. Did you see this?
I did not know.
Yeah, he liked a tweet that was like, he would look good in a Cowboys uniform, blah, blah, blah. But, whatever. 3 years, $71.55 million extension with $58.1 million guaranteed. Effectively the same deal that DK Metcalf got. The agent who works for Deebo Samuel also works for DK Metcalf and A.J. Brown. So a pretty good time to be this particular NFL agent.
Yeah, I mean, I'll tell you what, when Mike Williams got his 3-year, $60 million deal way earlier in the offseason, that felt like a hefty chunk of change. And then I think as it stands now, Keenan Allen and Mike Williams respectively are like 11th and 12th in terms of average per year, which just looks a lot better, right? I'm glad he got the deal. He's such a versatile, such a fun player. I remember watching him in Mobile at the Senior Bowl. Shout out Senior Bowl here on my chest to you, watching him just absolutely tear it up down there. So the success definitely isn't a surprise whatsoever. He had a heck of a year in 2021. It's crazy to see him still get this deal. I understand like why teams maybe want to play hardball with him, because he did miss, I want to say, 7 games in 2020. He missed 1 in 2019, 1 last year. So, I mean, he hasn't been like absolutely tearing the league asunder for 3 straight seasons, right? His stats right now, I think, are like 2,700 total receiving yards. Total, but like last season, over 1,700, just under 1,800 total yards from scrimmage. He did become the first receiver with 1,000 receiving yards, and then 5 receiving touchdowns, 5 rushing touchdowns in a single season. So he did something historic. Does that, automatically assume he should get one of these big contracts? In today's NFL, yes. I mean, we all saw what the wide receiver market's looking like. You better get these guys pinned down, even if it's just been, a 1-year breakout type situation. You better get them down now before you look bad later.
Yeah, I agree. I'm very interested to see what his usage is like in 2022, because that was a big part of the story too, right? He didn't want to be like a running back anymore, and obviously he's an incredibly unique player. I know this because of the wild card round and how wonderful he was for the 49ers, obviously. But I agree, like at the end of the day, like even if you're some 49ers fan that's like, oh no, we're not going to use him as a running back anymore, like how are we going to get our money's worth? Who cares? Like the salary cap's going to grow forever. You can afford to pay anybody anything. Like that's been proven time and time and time again. You mentioned Mike Williams. It was actually the Mike Williams deal that really upset me, from a Cowboys perspective, because that's what like overly justified the Amari Cooper contract. Was like, dude, if no offense to Mike Williams, but if Mike Williams is making this, then like who cares if Amari Cooper is making $20 million a year? You're fine. Like $20 million a year is nothing. And if you think it's nothing now, it will be like double nothing next year when new players get paid. And that's what's happened here. The receiver market has exploded. I mean, you mentioned Mike Williams, now Deebo. We've got Terry McLaurin, A.J. Brown. I already forgot DK Metcalf, Devontae Adams, Tyreek Hill. I mean, it is just next year we got Justin Jefferson coming into the mix. You know what I mean? Like it is only going to, and CeeDee Lamb maybe, like it is only going to grow and grow and grow and grow. And the Niners, will see what happens with Jimmy Garoppolo, but you have a quarterback on a rookie contract seemingly, right, for the next few years. Like maximize that, capitalize on that. So yeah, Deebo makes your team better. Who cares what he wants? Give it to him. You'll be fine. You can work it out in the end.
Yep, I absolutely agree. Sometimes you just got to pay your good players good money. I think there's a big difference between like a bona fide stud in the NFL where you know in your heart of hearts, like this dude's different, this dude's special, we need to keep him around. And then just like some guys that you could like turn into good players within your system and stuff like that. I mean, Debo's a bona fide stud. He can do things that a very, very small fraction of players in the NFL can do. I think once you realize that the money, at the end of the day, you'll forget what he's paid or what he was paid in the future once he's like succeeded and done all these things that you expect him to do for the team. So like in the present, you can think what you want. I think in a couple of years, this deal really will look much, much better.
I agree. Last thing on this note, AJ Brown tweeted about this. Now, the SB Nation NFL show listeners don't like my take on AJ Brown, and I don't know if you've heard it in totality, Michael. It's that, like, if I had to classify a winner and a loser from the AJ Brown trade, I think the Titans are the winner and the Eagles are a loser. That's not to say I think that it's a terrible trade or anything, but I just think that like giving up assets to pay a receiver on top of that is questionable. Now, fine, like we just said, pay good players good money and figure it out. And the Eagles are doing that. So like on that, side of things, I get it. But also, just draft players, pay new players, hit free agency, things like that. Again, the take has gotten a little bit weird, but AJ Brown kind of added this weird energy to the Debo moment. He tweeted on Sunday, Michael, basically all four of us got the same contract and I'm the only one who got traded. Yeah, keep believing it was me. Anyway, go Birds with the eagle emoji and then the hashtag carry on. This just feels like, dude, let it go. Like, like you're not in Tennessee anymore. Like they didn't want to pay you, felt disrespected, fine, but like let it go. Like it's water under the bridge at this point in time. This is, and I think Eagles fans are going to have his back no matter what, but this just looks a little bit weird from AJ Brown. And again, I'm not saying like he sucks or anything like that, but like just, not the coolest moment in my mind.
Yeah, I get that. I was actually a big fan of AJ Brown when he was coming out in the draft. I liked him over DK
But now you
Metcalf.
hate him because he's on the Eagles, right? Respect. I agree.
Oh, yeah, sure, whatever. We'll just say that happened. But yeah, I mean, I've liked AJ Brown. I loved his game. I think at the end of the day, you're correct in that. Hey, man, like a lot of stuff has happened since you were traded and got your deal and stuff. Like, I think you're probably fine just kind of letting it go. And in all honesty, I think in hindsight, like I think you're better off with the Eagles, which seems like a team that really wants to feature you. And if anything, I think you're going to have a better experience in Philadelphia. I think you're going to have better wide receivers to play with. I know you were used a lot and the Titans focused on you in their offense, but like that's still Derrick Henry's offense. And like they'll find a way to make sure their receivers can benefit off the play action and everything that Derrick Henry opens up for that offense. While like with the Eagles, they're going to like sling it around the yard with Jalen Hurts and you're going to be a prime benefactor of that. In general, I just think like the situation is much better for you in Philadelphia. And once you yourself kind of realize that, there's no point in looking back or saying anything about the Titans or whatever. Like that can be petty and we can hold the petty stuff as much as we like petty around here. It just doesn't seem like something that needs to stick around much longer. You're better off in Philadelphia. Let's just leave it at that.
Yeah, I agree. Philadelphia sucks. We could be cool. Like we can be straight honest about it. But okay, last kind of thing for this Football Monday is just blitzing through some training camp storylines that have happened so far. This was actually the plan for the show, and then the Debo contract happened, and then the Deshaun stuff happened. So what has happened throughout training camp that has caught your eye, that you've loved, that you've enjoyed, whatever? The floor is yours, Michael, because I have one that I think you're going to like, but I want to save it. Go ahead.
Okay, yeah, I think my favorite one that's happened so far is that in the first week of training camp, 2 fights broke out with the Atlanta Falcons during one of the practices. And Arthur Smith actually got in the middle of one of them to help break it up. Now, why this is interesting is because Arthur Smith has wanted to, like, quote unquote, change the culture of the Atlanta Falcons, right? They've kind of been a dumpster team for a little bit ever since they lost that Super Bowl against the Patriots and the fashion that they did. They just haven't been the same thing. They've been nowhere close to the way they were that year. So I always find this interesting because I think coaches and fans in general have very different opinions on what like in-team fighting like this looks like and what it means for them. Some people say, oh, that team, they're going to end up, they're going to end up being bad. They suck. They can't even like work together, blah, blah, blah. If you're like my high school head coach, then you loved seeing your team fight amongst themselves because at least it showed you a level of fire, a level of drive and aggressiveness and just stuff like that you can take and like mold and point it in the right direction to help your team go to a different level and succeed in the future. So I just really thought this was interesting. It was nice for Arthur Smith to see his players fighting amongst each other and not think like, oh, I've done a bad job as a coach. I need to I need to run them more. I need to do this or that. He's like, this is a good thing. This shows fight within this team and I can take that, mold it and make this team better for it.
I love that. I'm still not like super high on the Falcons or Arthur Smith. But yeah, that's cool. I mean, I like the training camp. Like, I want to see like a brawl, like not like a Joe Judge Giants brawl. But that's what I want to see. And actually, the subject of fights is where I was going. Josh Allen's been scrapping it up a little bit at Bills practice. Did you see this? That he got in a fight, a little bit of skirmish with Jordan Phillips, because Jordan got a little bit too close to him. And here's what I have to say to this. I get it. Some people think that quarterbacks are coddled, whatever. Josh Allen's literally one of the, like, I don't know, 3 best players in the NFL, right? Is that ridiculous to say, right?
I don't think that ridiculous.
3,
No.
5 if you want to be like a little, maybe you see somebody else doing a little bit better than him, whatever. He is one of the most important players in the NFL. If you wear a Buffalo Bills jersey, he is the most important person in a 100-mile radius of you, right? Like there's nobody within 100 miles who's more important to you this year than Josh Allen. What are you doing getting too close to him? And I kind of look, I've gone back and forth on the Bills because I've been Team Bills for a while, Michael. And I was upset that they whined and complained. I know I told you about the coin toss thing. I'm back. All right, I had my moment where I put them in timeout. Bills are my AFC team this year. I know I love the Ravens too. Sorry about your Chargers, but I've been with them too long. I've been on this ride for far too long. I have to see it through. I kind of like the energy that's happening at Bills camp, and I know that makes me like a victim of the machine that I complained about. Something I really liked. Just again, this was like standard training camp, like tropey sort of thing. Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs were on the NFL Network set on Back Together Saturday, which was the building that happened on Saturday, obviously. And they were having turkey burgers. I like turkey burgers. So I just kind of felt like, hey, we're one and the same. Me, Josh Allen, Stephon Diggs, Von Miller, we're all part of the mafia together.
Yeah. Are you so important that no one can get close to you either? Or there's going to be scrapping? Is that you're comparing that as well?
The only person who can get close to me is Michael Peterson.
Oh, well. I'll take that for something, I guess.
But yeah, like, do you think that's coddling? Because that take is like out there, like, ooh, back in my day, they used to like take the quarterback's head off during training camp,
So I'll actually answer that with a quick anecdote. So in high school, we would, during summer workouts and stuff, we'd go spend 3 days at a local Army base, and we would basically do 2 days and kind of live that life for a little bit as we got ready for the upcoming season. And I remember one specific practice where I was, I think, a sophomore at the time. And sophomores went with, juniors and seniors and the whole lot. And I remember a specific practice where a kid my age, like on scout team defense, essentially, since you're a sophomore, got too close to the quarterback. And I actually think he hit his arm when it was back, ready to throw a pass. And I had never seen my coach flip out more than he did in this very moment. Besides just like the harsh words he had for this kid, he made him start running around the field. But barely as he got kind of into his trot, the coach went and grabbed a full water bottle and chucked it at this kid's head while he's still cursing him out, telling him he's the most important person on this field. You're just the biggest idiot for even trying to get near him. Like, the whole season's ruined if you don't have him. So like, that's the experience I came from. So like, I completely understand the idea of wanting to protect your quarterback. And I get the biggest difference is this was a high school kid, in high school football level, as opposed to a guy making millions upon millions upon millions of dollars who is supposed to lead an entire NFL franchise to the promised land. So like, of course, I would like to think people freaked out more when people get too close to Josh Allen, as opposed to the way my coach did, against this one kid. So like, I don't necessarily think it's coddling. I do think there's a little bit of gray area when you realize that Josh Allen's as large as of a human being as he is. He's the size of some defensive ends and edge rushers in the NFL playing quarterback. So like, I think he'll be fine, but you never want to press that, too much.
Yeah. Why are you flirting with disaster? You know what I mean? It's like I remember when I was in college, a friend of mine, his name was Kyle. He got a new phone. And it was like this was at the time when like new phones was like, it was like a big deal when you got a new phone because it was like, oh, the camera's better and stuff. Like now it's like they're all the same. But anyway, so he was like letting us look at it and see like it had it was one of those first that had the like you could unlock it with the pattern and everything like that. You could make like an M or whatever. Maybe that's what you did for Michael. But he was like, whatever you do, don't drop it. Because like the house we were in was like tile and I dropped it. Like that was like the first thing I did, and I felt like so bad because I was like, holy crap, like this is a really important thing to you, and I did the one thing that you're not supposed to do. So I kind of feel that way about Jordan Phillips. Like, dude, the one thing, like, don't touch the quarterback. Like, just don't breathe on him. Don't go anywhere near him, because if he goes down, your season is a very, very different thing. And this is the most important Bills season maybe ever, right? Like, is that kind of fair to say? Like, you could certainly make that argument. And so yeah, like don't Don't play with fate. You know what I mean? It's silly. It's like when you turn your like PlayStation off when the little like saving icon's going, you might lose the save. Don't play with fate. Just wait. Do you have any other storylines that stood out to you?
Let's see. Yeah, so I think I need to bring up the Dolphins in that I think it was this past week where Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle kind of combined on a quote that basically said like defenses should be scared shitless. Like I think that's kind of amazing. I think that the confidence is there. I mean, as ill will, sometimes I wish upon Tyreek Hill because of being a former Chief. Like I like that confidence, and I think they have every right to feel that way, and to think that opposing defenses will be scared because obviously two elite talents, elite speed on top of actually being well-rounded wide receivers. Like it's kind of insane. I really like that. But one note that kind of came from Dolphins camp is that Mike McDaniel wants Mike Gesicki to be more of a blocker this year compared to like any other season he'd ever been as a blocker, whether that was in the pros or at college at Penn State. Like he's the epitome of a tight end that he's just like, no, I'm good on blocking. Like I'm good enough as a receiver and a jump ball threat in the red zone and stuff like that. Like you don't need me. Like he became so valuable in other areas as a receiver that they could just figure out another way to figure out how to block guys. But this year, Daniel comes in year one and he's like, Gesicki, I know you've kind of had it easy in the NFL, but like we're gonna put your hand in the dirt. We're gonna make you, put on some mass and work on your technique, and like you're gonna be a blocker. So I think that's hilarious to me.
I agree. I love how everybody's like shocked. Like, wait a minute, the guy coming from San Francisco wants to run the ball a lot. Like, whoa, what a weird, kind of revelation here. I agree with you on the Tyreek Hill thing. I know he gets roasted by people for this. Like, oh man, this dude's like hyping up to it. Like, I kind of love that. Like, I kind of, respect. Like, that's your guy. You know what I mean? Like, it's like I've always thought it was stupid how Terrell Owens got crap for his "that's my quarterback" thing. Like, what? Like, isn't that how we would want like our players, like the skill position players, to or anybody to speak about the quarterback like that? That's like endearing. So, I agree. My last thing is I kind of feel like staying in the AFC East, like the Jets are having an okay time right now. Like we haven't heard. Like I feel like they signed Quan Alexander, and I'm like kind of into that. I don't know. I'm so like torn on what to think about the Jets because on one hand I could see Robert Saleh like having a terrible season and being fired, right? Like because that's just what the Jets do. But on the other hand, I could kind of see like everything clicking and things working for them. The Jets are interesting. I'm not like in on them by any stretch, but they just have enough to make me kind of go, huh? Like I'll enjoy the primetime games that are on this season more than I have in years past.
Yeah, I agree. I think if you just look at the roster, while it's not like one of the most impressive things in the world, they have players at certain positions to make up enough of the roster for you to go, I think they can lean into some of these areas where they are strong and actually find more success than people maybe give them. Zach Wilson, we'll see how he is in year 2, but when you're throwing to a guy like Elijah Moore, who I really liked last year, kind of came on strong towards the end. Garrett Wilson, another really exciting rookie wide receiver to add to that offense as well. On the offensive line, Mekhi Becton and Elijah Vera Tucker are working together on the right side. And I mean, like, look at the Chargers last season. All they needed was like one half of an offensive line to find much more success as opposed to years past where they just had like, sparingly good players across the front 5. Defensively as well, Jermaine Johnson was an exciting player coming out of the draft at edge rusher. Like you said, Quan Alexander as well. I just think Sauce Gardner, one of the best names, obviously, that came out of the draft this last year. Fan reception has been huge to him. I think someone tweeted out that you would have thought Sauce was like actual royalty the way when he like waltzed by the fans, their reception to him. And I think all that hype's absolutely phenomenal. And I think the hype's not misplaced. They've got a lot of young guys to be excited about. If it's not this season, you just know they're probably going to be a lot better next season. Like if this season doesn't go well, you still have the young talent plus whatever draft picks you have. I think it's a good time to have real excitement for the Jets going forward.
Agreed. Plus the vibes around Zach, like everybody right now is like into Zach Wilson. It has nothing to do with football, you know what I mean? But everybody's like enjoying him more than they ever have. So at least people around the Jets are having a good time, and so I'm happy for them in that sense. But okay, Rachel, the time has come. 3 things, Rachel. Number 1, what do you think of the donut thing that Michael described? Number 2, what is your favorite training camp storyline? And number 3, of course, the MF double MVP. And you, just to be clear, the rules as we dictated last week are anybody who was on the show is eligible. So that does leave Emmitt Smith as a viable option. Go ahead.
Okay. I'm going to go out of order. Training camp headlines. I thought it was interesting to see Nick Sirianni downplaying the fact that running back Miles Sanders was like running with the second team offense. I thought that was interesting. something to watch.
It's that highlighter he's got in his visor. It clouds his thinking.
Yeah. Can you remind me of the donut thing?
Oh yeah, okay. So it's like a sweet and savory kind of like brunch appetizer where they make little, just like basic glazed donuts you get from Krispy Kreme or wherever your chain is. Cut it in half, and then they put a piece of pork belly in the middle. If you ever had pork belly, like it's just melt in your mouth.
Half
it's
like horizontally, just to be fair, right?
Like not through the hole, horizontally. Yep. And then so a piece of pork belly, and it's just like it's the softest melt in your mouth part of the pig like you can make. Like it's absolutely phenomenal. And that's obviously got some savory stuff to it. And then on the side you get like a maple bourbon kind of like syrup to dip it in. So again, sweet and savory. I'm a big contrast guy, and one of the best dishes I've ever had. I had it down in Savannah, Georgia. Big food place down there. It was absolutely phenomenal.
I would definitely try it. I mean, I'm one of those people who will get like those donuts with the bacon on it, so it's kind of reminding me of the same concept. Like those maple bacon donuts. Have you had one? Very good. Maple bacon.
I have not. I've never tried this like bacon donut thing, but like I'm really interested in what Michael suggested now, so I have to go down this path.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm here for it. I would definitely try it.
The time has come, Rachel.
The time has come.
Double MVP.
Okay. I'm gonna give it to RJ. Woo!
Let's go. 2 in a row against Michael the King. Let's go.
Yeah.
Wow.
I have not listened to the interview yet. I'm going to listen to it, but you had to take the time to prep for it and I know you did a fantastic job. So it's only right that I give it to RJ. Woo-hoo.
I mean, that's fine. It doesn't sound like I went wrong anywhere, so I'll accept this. That's fine. It didn't, I like I said, I went back and worked on my fundamentals and tried to come correct, and it just looks like something was out of my control, and that's fine. I will totally doff my cap to RJ for all his work.
Yeah. Really what it feels like, Tony, I had a message about a guy on our staff and Tony right now at the same time, Michael. I promise that's not like a dismissive, like I'm MFWP, like everything's gone to my head thing. But what it feels like is this was a measurement of who was taller. And to Rachel's point, like I did the interview, like I came in, with some like heightened shoes. You know what I mean? Like it wasn't a fair fight. You know what I'm saying? Like the Emmett thing just kind of put me over the top. And so if I'm riding the NFL all-time leading rusher's shoulders for an episode to an MFW MVP, I'm fine with that. That's who I am. You know what I mean? That's who I am today. So really, I accept this award, Rachel, but I split it in half with Emmett. I mean, he deserves part of it, because he helped me get here, so I can't do it without him. So
fair.
Wow. Well, we had a good time despite the super ugly thing that happened. So shout out to everybody for hanging out with us. Rachel is on Twitter at Rachel Monique. Michael is on Twitter at Zone Tracks. Oh, by the way, I don't know that either of you saw this. Basically, everybody agreed with me on the golden birthday thing. People were tweeting at us and saying that you guys were like making that up. That you like they thought it was ridiculous that y'all had never heard of the golden birthday thing. So
I saw the tweet. I did see the tweet.
Wait, what tweet was this? Because I've been down with golden birthdays. Mine was when I was 15, April 15th, tax day. So
actually, it was at Steven as well. Because Steven filled in on the look ahead. Steven brought up Dak Prescott's comment from last week about how I don't know if you saw this, Michael. This was the day before Dak's 29th birthday. His birthday was on the 29th, and so he was like, "Oh yeah, I'm into this. Like it's my golden year, whatever." And Steven and Rachel, I'm all over the place. It's been a hectic morning. I haven't had the phenomenal breakfast items that Michael has outlined, so I clearly need to get some nourishment. But they were like, yeah, like Dak's just like talking crap. Like he's just out here like proclaiming it's going to be a golden year. It's going to be, and I was like, no, he's turning 29 on the 29th. Like he's just saying it's his golden birthday. And they had never heard of this. They had never heard of that being a thing.
Michael, to my defense, my golden year, I was 6 years old. So I don't remember a golden year. Like nobody ever said, oh, that was your golden year. So I had never heard of it, honestly.
Yeah, that's totally fine. Well, personally, it ends at golden birthday. Like it wasn't like golden year. It was just like this one day where your age now matches the date of like your birthday.
I disagree. I think it's your golden year.
I mean, to be honest, I'm a little upset that I didn't know the concept because then I could have milked it way more. Like people go from their birthday day to like the week, and then now they do whole birthday months. Like my twin sister does birthday month with her and her friends. Like,
you're a twin?
Yeah, I'm a twin.
We didn't know that.
Michael.
Yeah, I got a twin sister. Mm-hmm.
You hit this from.
Is her name Michelle?
No, her name's Abigail, or just Abby, but like I call her Abigail for fun. But yeah, so she's my twin sister. The difference is she's 5'5" and I'm about 6'3", so like you wouldn't know it if you looked at us together. But yeah, she's my twin sister.
Wow. She doesn't look like Baker Mayfield, obviously. But you do.
I hope not. I hope she
right. Wow. I mean, well, if she looks like you. I mean,
Nope.
There's a hint of that. Look, Michael, just look, we're learning. I mean, how would you not? We've done like 10 episodes together. How would you never told us that you were a twin?
Man, to be honest, I don't know.
Rachel, you're with me, right? Like that's an important thing. You tell somebody. Like you told us about your brunch items. You didn't tell us you're a twin.
We learned about the cats, everything.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know what to tell you guys. I'm pretty sure she watched last week's episode for the first time as well, so she was pumped to see that.
Abigail, I'm on those terms. Get mad at him for not telling us about this. I mean, seriously. By the way, do you always say that? I've always wondered because you said my twin sister. Like, do you ever say like my sister, or do you always?
So I'm glad you segued that perfectly because I was going to tell you guys that we actually call each other our roommates.
I like that.
That's precious.
I like that a lot.
Wow.
Oh yeah, we think that's pretty dang catchy.
It is.
I see. Like I went down this path where I was like, her name should have been Michelle, because then you could have been like Michael and Michelle. But then I thought if her name was Michelle, your name should be Romy for Romy and Michelle's high school reunion, obviously. So.
Well, it turns out I was actually almost named Andrew because my mother. For real? Okay, so we'll get this.
My mom wanted to name me Andrew.
I don't know if you guys ever heard about this, but like families who like doing alliteration with all their kids. So my mother Angie is sisters with Annette and Amy. And then my sister's Abby, and I was almost Andrew. My father is Todd with Tim, Terry, and Tom for his siblings. Wow. So I have literally parents or dad's side all T's, mother's all A's, and then my sister got in on the A stuff.
Wow. Different ends of the alphabetical spectrum. You know what I mean? Like super far away. And you're with me. Actually, we're all like, well, Rachel, your last name is Prevet, and Michael Peterson. I'm Ochoa. Like we're always in the back. People forget we don't get to line up first for graduation or attendance. We have to wait for all the people to go through. You know what I mean? Like it's sad. Wow, Michael. Well, thanks for telling us that. Geez, I thought, and Michael will be back next week. Who knows what he'll introduce to us as far as his life is concerned. Wow, I was really stunned to learn that. But hold up, before we leave, when was your golden year, Michael? Yours and
yeah. So I kind of mentioned it real quickly, but my birthday's April 15th, so tax day, and so it was when I turned 15. Yep.
Got it.
Wow. Well, that was your golden year, and Rachel, yours was the 6th. So
August 6th. Woohoo! It's coming.
What?
Oh, it is coming. Wow, 5 days.
Again, what the heck?
That's why I'm not gonna be here.
I thought
Are we gonna do
friends.
something special next week? I feel like we have to.
Here. I took off.
That's right. Rachel won't be here next week. Rachel, what on earth? How did you not tell us this? We even talked about you being out next week. You didn't say it was for your birthday.
Oh, sorry, guys.
Wow, everybody. Rachel is on Twitter at Rachel Monique. Tweet her a happy birthday before the end of the earth. You can do it at any time you want between now and then. Wow, I don't even know you guys anymore. Like, just like I tell you my whole life. And Michael, you're a twin. Rachel, your birthday's this week. I mean, just who knows? Who knows anymore? I thought we were friends. Rachel, end the show. I'm so upset.